We need to add a person to BIDBase. Now the first thing you need to do is just know that the person's address and their organisation employer are already in there. If not, do this first. Now say I've just met the marketing manager, Veronica, and the buying assistant, John, from House of Furniture, one of our levy payers. They've asked to be on our system and receive our emails. Now I really do need to check that they're not already on there and one of my colleagues hasn't previously added them. So to do this, we go to My Data, People. We'll run a dynamic search and fields against first name. You could choose other search options, but I'm going to use first name. Veronica, apply. Now here's the results. Veronica, marketing manager, House of Furniture, is already on there, so we mustn't add her again. So clear that. Now let's run the search again for John. Let's see if there are any Johns on here. Right, now there is a John, but that's not the John at House of Furniture. This is a different John. So we still need to add him. So let's clear that and click Add Person. Here's the form you use to add a person. First field is title. You don't have to complete this, but I know from his business card he's a Mr. The first name and second name must be completed because every person in BIDBase must be unique. So you do need a first and a second name, otherwise it won't let you add the person at the end. Now this is one of the reasons next why I said you need to check that the address and the employer are already on there before you start, because it's a drop-down box. Now we could scroll through. If I just type HOU, there we are, House of Furniture, and I know the address from his business card is 155 Corporation Road. Now you don't have to complete these, but you may come across later on if you haven't. For a person to appear on an email list, they do need to have an employer. Otherwise, later on when you go to run searches, they may not appear. As for the address field, say you needed to pull off a list of people on a particular street, say Corporation Road for example, to let them know of some business disruption. If you haven't put his address in, BIDBase is not going to know where he is. So John Bryans will never come up on lists. So it's very important you add this or take the time to find out that information. Job title we don't have to fill in, but I know it's buying assistant. I'm going to change primary contact to no because Veronica is the primary contact for House of Furniture. I don't know his phone number, I don't know his mobile number, but I do know his email address. You can see here there's an option for a secondary email address. That could be a personal one if they ask you to put that on. So it'll mean that when you pull off mailing lists that John's included on, both this email and if you had a secondary one, they'd both appear. Now we come to the communication preferences for John. There are 5 preferences. The default is yes, so he'll be included on all of these. If you were to ask for a magazine list, if you were to ask for an e-newsletter list, he will appear. Magazine, that's pretty straightforward. If you run a magazine, that's the category. Newsletter is a hard copy newsletter. E-newsletter, this is email format, obviously. Resilience, if you operate this service, this is what you might use to notify levy payers of police alerts or emergency emails, perhaps some business disruption alerts. Other, you can use that category for whatever you want. Don't forget you can also add John to people groups, but we'll do that separately later. Now, when I was in the meeting with John, he mentioned that although his formal base is at Corporation Road, he actually travels around the country all the time, so he doesn't need to receive any business disruption alerts related to this store. So I'm going to change that preference to no. Right, moving on, bid team. The default position is no. It would only be yes if you're adding a person who's in your bid office. Active. Obviously the status is yes because it's live, he's new, we want him on there. If you return to this later and amend the data because you've heard John's left the country or moved to another city, you would change that to no to effectively close his file. And when you do that, you would type in the change description something and note to yourself like left the bid area. But we'll leave active as yes, and we have made a change, so we'll leave that blank. Then we click add, and John's been added. Let's just check that. We'll go to the organisation, see if he appears under House of Furniture. Now I don't need to search because I know it's the second one here. So if you click on the blue text of any business in the organisation table, it will show you all the employees. So let's click on that, and there's John. Simple.